Hello, once again. I am Doc Rotten, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. And back with me again this week are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co-host on the net. And tonight we are reviewing Fear Street Part 1, 1994. This is streaming on Netflix, and we're excited to share this with you. All right, joining me tonight from MOHR is, of course, award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, sir?
Doing good, doing good. I feel like I'm feeling a 90s vibe tonight.
They're solid 90s vibe from the music to
get out the boom boxes and your mixtapes. let's log on to AOL AIM and talk our hearts out.
Oh me. Yeah, get that beep 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 charge every yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, stay off the phone, Mom. I'm on the internet.
All right, well, let's welcome some of our Gruesome Magazine crew, starting off with Jeff Moore. Jeff, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thank you for the invite.
Well, we have a very special Netflix film. This is one of 3 films that we'll be covering together. This is part 1. So are you ready to dive into these 3 films?
So the other ones are part 2 and part 3.
That's how it works. Yeah. But the tricky thing is the years go backwards. All right. Also joining us is Crystal Cleveland, the Living Dead Girl. Crystal, how you doing? Also from Gruesome Magazine.
I'm fabulous. I don't even know how to follow up all this funness. Although I will say, I think the 90s is my favorite decade. Yeah, I mean, the music was so good.
Well, there's a lot of "Hello, Sydney" in this movie at the beginning.
A little bit.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed but I love this movie because I love R.L. Stein. So, guess you already know my thoughts. Done.
Yep, and I did leave that out of the thing. This is based on R.L. Stein's Fear Street books, which are fairly unfamiliar for me. So this will be interesting to kind of get the background on these from you, Crystal. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to give our first impression of the film. And in that block, we will be spoiler-free. We will not give away spoilers. And then we're going to discuss the film. And it's going to be hard to discuss this film without getting into spoilers. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So watch the film first before you watch that part of the show. And then we're going to wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. All right, let's take a look at the film we're talking about tonight. Yes, folks.
You saved it totally.
Nobody knew what was going on. Fear Street, available on Netflix beginning July 2nd, 2021. The synopsis is: a circle of teenage friends accidentally encounter the ancient evil responsible for a series of brutal murders that have plagued their town for over 300 years. Welcome to Shadyside. Directed by Leigh, Janiak, written by Phil Gresidey and Kyle Killian, based on the Fear Street books by R.L. Stein. And the cast includes Kiana Madeira, Olivia Scott Welch, Benjamin Flores Jr., Julia Reinwald, Maya Hawke doing her, we'll get into that in a second. Charlene Amoya, David with no I don't know how I did that, W. Thompson, Noah Van Garrett, Daryl Britt Gibson, Ashley Zuckerman, and Fred Hetchinger. One eye shy of a perfect score there. All right, that's me all over the place. So what?
One eye
Even know why you
shy.
try. You should say, here's the cast. They're listed on the screen.
I know. I should learn just read them yourself. I ain't going to be able to do it.
It's like a word Russian roulette every time.
Sometimes I do good.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the times I don't. But, I've been at it for 8 years, and it's gotten only worse as I get older. All right. So let's do this. Let's give our first impression of this. And, Crystal, I'm going to start with you because I want to get a little bit of spiel because you said before the show that you actually really love these books, the Fear Street books.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Give us some background about that, and then give us the spiel about your first impression.
Okay. So it's kind of funny because I'm going to kind of mix in the movie with it, but the first scene of the movie begins in a B. Dalton bookstore, and I am not kidding when I say that that is what I remember going to the mall when I was a little kid, going in and running in and like waiting for the new books to come out. And R.L. Stine was one of my favorites because there wasn't a lot of horror options for, you know, younger people. And not that I couldn't read the older ones, but, you know, this was more up my alley. And, you know, if you know R.L. Stine, you know that he wrote Goosebumps, of course, which I think everyone knows Goosebumps because the movies were pretty popular. And those are definitely for younger. And then he started this Fear Street series, and it's more graphic and gruesome. And I think it's a little bit, it's more fun. I think they went further in this, although he did have some pretty wicked deaths in Fear Street. Like there were deaths in that, so that's something, you know. So it's like for mature teens is what I would say that Fear Street is, whereas like, you know, Goosebumps and Slappy and all that is relatively mundane for the most part. Sweet, you know, I'd show a 6-year-old that, but that's me. I'm probably wrong.
No.
But as far as these movies go, okay. Prefacing what I just said was basically that these are books for, you know, teenagers, mature teenagers, and the movie kind of flows along the same sort of genre. It definitely has a young adult feel to it. It feels more like a Riverdale or Teen Wolf. I mean, all these young adult shows. And so if you're okay with that and into that kind of stuff, I think you'll really enjoy this. If you're looking for a real, true horror, I think it might be a little bit more difficult for mature horror fans who don't like this sort of stuff. That being said, I think there was some fun gore in this. I think that they had some creative kills. I think the story is really interesting. I'm really excited to see where they go with it, actually, because they're going from kind of an end point back to the beginning. And then I think they're going to have to wrap it up. I think that's the whole point, is wrapping it up in the 90s. Oh my God, there's so much good music in this. That's one of my favorite things. Like, they have a little faux pas. Most of the music is background music, but there is a point where a kid is playing video games and he's singing More Human Than Human. And while that, I think, was recorded in 94, it was not released until 95. It's okay.
Derp.
White Zombie,
Yes.
you know, one of my faves. But that's okay. I'm okay with that. If it's background music, it doesn't matter if it came from the 90s or whatever. You can bring that from anywhere. But yeah, so I'm just rambling. But I found it was really nostalgic for me, I guess. Maybe that's why I liked it so much. I love the 90s. The 90s are like the 80s with better music.
Says you. All right, let's we'll move on with that. You're not wrong, but you're not right. All right, Jeff Moore, sir, you're up next. What was your first impression of Fear Street Part 1, 19?
So I worked in a Walden Books from 83 to 96.
Oh.
Not a B. Dalton's. That was them who never shall be mentioned. But anyway, we sold tons and tons and tons of Goosebumps and Fear Street. You know, it was part of the collection of books that there were certain books that came out every month that they knew what day they were coming out and they'd be there getting them. And Goosebumps and Fear Street were part of that. So in terms of the movie, I had fun with the movie. You know, it's got an odd feel to it. There's a couple of twists and turns in there that I did not see coming, that surprised me, that I thought that I was okay with, that I thought was good. However, the thing that bothers me is that, and I'm saying this without having ever read a Fear Street book, but they had this weird this weird classification called young adult books that
Yes,
fit in between the chapter books, like
exactly. See, young
Goosebump
adult.
and the adult books. And they were usually shorter too, if I remember. But my impression of those, and they all inside the cover, they all had like a reading level age group on them. But I'm not sure that this Fear Street directly translates to the Fear Street in the books in terms of some of the stuff that happens in there, especially in terms of the way drugs were used. I mean,
Oh yeah, I forgot about the drugs.
Unless they were
that's
going
new.
for flat out, I don't know, almost slapstick in a way with some of that. It was a stupid idea. It was a stupid scheme. It didn't make any sense the way that they used that, and I felt like it was out of place in terms of being related to the Fear Street books.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if say you had kids of that age now and you read the Fear Street books and you thought, oh, cool, and well, you know, you get one too many F words, F bombs in there, or some sex, that could do it too. It's extremely violent in terms of graphic stuff that happens to people, I thought. But at any rate, so having said that, you know, I'm kind of torn because I enjoyed it, but that the way that drugs were used in it bothered me. I don't know. Not that
I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
Can I say one thing? I think that they still kept it kind of on that age bracket, just more modernized. Because if you watch any of the young adult programs out now, they do always like address drugs. They do kind of talk about all this stuff now. Whereas, you know, in the 90s, no, not so much, because, you know, drugs are bad, okay?
Yeah, it's a weird inclusion for, you know, well, given the material, it kind of expected to be PG-13, but it's rated R, and it wears it fairly strongly. So
it does.
But that means I like it more than probably I would have if it was PG-13. But let's find out what Christopher G. Moore thought. Sir, what was your first impression of Fear Street Part 1, 1994?
The weird thing is, like, before I saw this, I thought this was going to be right up my alley, and because I love any things that are usually like, you know, 80s or 90s. I mean, Stranger Things is like one of my favorite things ever, and they even have actors from the Stranger Things franchise in this. But I'm not very familiar with the R.L. Stine stuff. I guess I grew up reading a lot of the harder Stephen King stuff, so I was more into that kind of stuff. I never really read as much of the teen-oriented stuff that R.L. Stine made, and never really. I guess maybe I was aged out of Goosebumps, or, you know. Did he do the Afraid of the Dark? Is that R.L. Stine as well?
Yeah.
Is that different?
Oh, no.
Okay. Anyway,
It
It was
Yeah,
like a
kind of
Nickelodeon.
Okay.
There was a guy named Christopher Pike that did a bunch of similar
gotcha.
books too. Yeah.
So yeah, for some reason I never really got into that kind of stuff, and this feels like an amalgam of a lot of different things. It definitely owes a lot to Scream. The whole opening scene almost feels like they ripped off Scream.
It was an homage.
Well, that's kind. But I do like visually what they do a lot in this film. I'm sure if Dave were here, he would probably have an aneurysm. Oh, too many color lights. Because there's a lot of use of color in scenes.
I liked it too.
And you know, and I'm this, you know, and I during the 90s, during the summers, I worked in a movie theater in a mall. So I went to the mall a lot, and so just seeing B. Dalton's or that sort of what is the name of that store? That stand-in for Spencer Gifts.
Yeah, there was a stand-in for Spencer Gifts.
But just hearing B. Dalton, I was like, oh, I remember going to the bookstores and seeing all those different. I was actually paying attention to all the stores, and even when they go in a grocery store or whatever, and I was looking at the products to see if they were like 90s appropriate.
Were they?
They had like some of the mainstays, like
Do you want me to tell you another one? The Calibri font he was using in the chat room wasn't developed until the 2000s.
No.
Who's the nerd now? Well, and you know, I of course I was big into computers in the late 80s and 90s. So just seeing all that kind of stuff brought back a lot of like, oh man, I remember those days having to log in on AOL and chatting with people and all that stuff. So yeah, it definitely brings a lot of memories. But I don't know, the film I mean not film, but this first part of this, it had its good parts and it had its bad parts. At least this is one of those things where you feel like the actors felt like teenagers, as opposed to things we've seen recently. You know, Doc, I'm talking about Doc, where the actors didn't feel like they were teenage appropriate.
30-year-olds,
didn't have that 90210 effect. But yeah, I did like some of that, but I don't know, how the whole story plays out didn't make sense to me, and I had issues with the drug stuff too, where it's like, not that I don't have problems when characters use drugs, but just their whole idea around it, that and just how they relate to it after the fact when the person doesn't go about the way they want it to. It didn't make sense to me either. So the whole time I'm like, this is stupid. And also just how it plays out. It's like, why are all these people even worrying about it? Because it doesn't matter in the end, if you know what I mean. And then you had these individual killers that felt like they just felt like it felt like the Annabelle, that third Annabelle film, where they just make up all these characters that feel like characters you would see in things. So I don't know. Right. It was a little bit of disappointment for me, and some of the characters kind of annoyed me. And then I feel like they lived in a town where there was nothing secure. There was nobody around. They could just ramble into places. There's like no guards at the high school. There's like nothing. I was like, is there anybody in this town? It's like nobody. I mean, what, they just have like 2 cops? I mean, I guess this is a small town. But I was like, this made Mayberry feel like New York City. There's just like nobody securing anything. So I don't know. The main girl character annoyed me. Although I do like the Josh.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I felt like that. Yeah, I just felt like I can see why that person left her. I can see that's chaos right there, on the Loki level. So I don't know. There's a lot of things that didn't make sense to me.
Christopher never went for the broken ones.
Yeah. So oh well, I'm sure my love life would disagree. But I don't know. It seemed to be. It didn't really seem to click in the story it was trying to tell. I don't know. I'm rambling. I'm done.
Yeah, that's how I felt too. I'm like, yeah.
Well, here's a surprise for you. I enjoyed the shit out of this. I loved it. Yay. I love the slasher vibe to it. I love the homage to Scream at the beginning. I mean, I think I said hello, Sydney, at the very beginning, because it felt very much like Maya is the character from the beginning in this one. So,
I didn't even recognize her.
Yeah, well, Drew Barrymore, right? She was playing the Drew Barrymore character of the film, and that's fine. It sets things up, and we get our killer aspect of it pretty quick, and kind of segs into our main cast, who I liked pretty well. I thought the 4 or 5 main cast members, I really liked them. I liked the brother and the sister quite a bit. Even though you thought she was kind of annoying. I mean, she would be not the most pleasant person to have a relationship with because she was a little psychotic, but at the same time, she was entertaining. I enjoyed it, and I love slashers that have a supernatural bend to them. I mean, I like Jason when he comes up out of the grave.
Well, okay, so one of those killers too looked like, was it Jason from the second movie when he has the
bag?
The bag.
Yeah.
Sorry,
potato,
that's what that
the
reminded
potato
me.
sack. Yeah. So I mean, there is a variety of slashers. I guess it's on the posters that we showed you. So, and it does have a supernatural aspect to it. Although this particular film is very much, geared toward the slasher of it, and there are some nice, happy, graphic kills that you look for. Maybe not as many as you get in a Friday the 13th. It feels kind of reserved in that respect, but at the same time, when they do go for the kills, there are a couple that truly deliver, and I had a blast with those. As a matter of fact, by the time that happened, I didn't want those characters to die, and I was like, oh, man.
I know.
Like, okay, well,
yeah,
fine.
me too.
Fine. All right.
Actually, one of my favorite characters, that death was my favorite, of course. And I'm like, oh, man.
So I appreciated that the characters had a little edge to them in that respect. I think you guys are having trouble with it, but they were on
not me. I'm okay.
They were on the darker side of
okay.
of the class. Not the. I've got to what did we used to call them back in high school? We used to, what was it? I forget. We had a name for them. I don't know. It was a long time ago, back when we rode horses to school.
What? I don't even know. What are you?
I feel bad.
Time travel here?
It's so funny.
I did.
DeLorean?
All right. So So the end of the story is I enjoyed the hell out of this, and I thought that everything worked out for me, and I'm looking forward to the next one. I like that we got a tease to the next two movies. We kind of know where they're going, and then from there they're going to surprise us. So
I think they're going to get better.
Yeah,
I'm hoping. I feel like there's much more to the story.
Well, I mean, the next one feels like the Friday 13th.
Straight up, yeah.
Straight up. I mean, and I think also I wanted to point out one of the things that kind of annoyed me. Me. You can throw all kinds of stuff. I'm going to fanboy over it usually if it's like references to things or references to 80s or the use of music got kind of annoying. It became more of a sampler plate.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean?
Because
there's like one part where they play like three or four
next.
segments back to back, and it's like
so what? But they were playing different music for each person, like their mentality.
They did that so much.
Loves
yeah,
me.
but that's to me that's just like, oh, we're just gonna throw as much 90s music into this. So like, that's just, to me, that's overusing it to the point to where it pulled me out of the movie as opposed to me being interested in what's happening, because it just felt like them trying to put as many songs in there as possible. And they did it a lot. You go from one scene where they hear a song playing in one room to another one, and it's like, okay, we get it. They all listen to 90s music. And it just got old after a while to where it just seemed more of a production wise, let's incorporate all this music as opposed to what is integral to telling the story in the best way possible. But that was just me. It just kind of annoyed me.
No, it's not. I totally agree with Christopher because it's something I noticed as well, especially when specifically one part when they first showed the high school and they're walking in the high school and they showed the different kids and each kid has a different song, basically, showing their personality. I was like, okay, it didn't bother me as much as it bothered Christopher. I just thought, whoa, that's a lot of music. And all I kept thinking in my head was, they must have bought the rights to all these songs. They
didn't play it long enough for them to have to pay much. I felt like they were using songs like sound effects at some point.
Yeah, that's what I seriously thought. I was like, wow, yeah.
They bought a whole library and just said, shove it all in. And at one point they were quite literally, okay, let's make a reference to the Pixies and then play.
Yeah.
So that was a little on the nose, but other than that, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Although I will say, if you've been through all the shit that these characters go through, I don't think I'd be so happy-go-lucky by the end of it. Just saying.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a kid.
They get over. Josh seems to recover fairly quickly from.
I know. It's like,
and
okay,
well,
let's eat some pizza.
There's like no parents too, right? There's no parents.
But
There's
that,
no,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
There
but
are no
that's
parents.
perfect, right? That's perfect for a movie like this. You don't want to have the parents.
I guess so, but then it's like I feel like is there some underlying thing like Nightmare on Elm Street to where all the like the parents are dead?
Well, they mentioned the dad quite a bit.
They
right?
do, but you don't. That's the thing. There's like all these missing people in this town.
Yeah.
All the parents are in Sunnyvale.
Instead
We're
of
all absent
Shady.
parents in Shadyside or whatever that was.
Oh, we do get the one mom.
Yeah,
And
oh, that's right.
she's a
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The girlfriend's mom.
But and then
She's
they're
angry.
dead. Yeah, she is angry. She's a
Although I don't think she'd be so willing to let her kids stay over at the other person's house. But I don't know. Some of the decisions just annoyed me, and I don't like. I hate that when I'm watching a movie and that kind of stuff annoys me. But,
well. I think like some of the characters, like the cop, are going to have a bigger story later. I feel like his story is in the next movie because he calls up the other.
Oh,
one and says,
he's
you know,
probably
it's
gonna
happening
because it's in the 70s or something. He's
Right.
probably gonna be one of the teenagers or something, right?
again. Yeah. And then we do get introduced to the survivor of the next movie. So that I found that interesting. You know, we're kind of getting introduced to the characters we're going to see the story about next week. So I don't know. I wasn't
liked it
sure.
too.
I wasn't sure
I
what I
got-
was going to get, and I had a great time.
Yeah, I think there's a lot I could probably nitpick too because I agree with Christopher on a lot of those things. I don't know. I think it was just like I said, it was really nostalgic for me, and I think that's why it was really nice. And every time I heard a new song, I was like, oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, well, nostalgia can only take you so far, you know. And
That's
I think
true.
Doc knows I'm usually. There's been reviews where I'm all about the nostalgia a lot of times, and for some reason this felt like. It felt like it's like when you make a fake scent of something, it doesn't feel right. You know, it's like it's the fake scent of nostalgia that. But I mean, there's moments like I was like I felt like back in the '90s.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's like the pine tree scent hanging in your car. But I don't know. I mean, I don't hate this first chapter. I did enjoy moments. There's moments that made me laugh, and I love the Josh character.
Yes.
You know, anytime you have the nerdy, I mean, he's basically the what's the character in Scream that knows all about the movies.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? He was
Street.
who?
Oh, that never mind.
Yeah, but yeah, that guy from that guy from that film that was working in the video store. He was like that version, and I loved his character. And
I do love when he hacks the vending machine. That's like my favorite. I was like, I love you. You would be my best friend.
And yeah, and I mean, I did like the guy that worked at the store, that friend of the cheerleader. I can't remember his name, but he was just kind of that loopy guy because there's maybe I won't say it, so I won't spoil it. But there's there's a line he says that made me literally laugh for a little while when he said it.
Yay!
When they're all changing and he says something after it.
Oh yes, I did too.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Actually, I thought he was precious too.
Simon.
Simon, yeah. I think he was just an interesting character. I mean, I don't know. There's like some weird moments, like when they go to the hospital and there's the Betty person. I was like, I thought there was going to be more to that, and it was just like, okay. It just felt like it turned into Tarantino or something for a second
There's
there.
Betty.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's.
Well, it's Betty, Beddie, right? So
Yeah.
But they said they did use the pronoun she, so maybe that
okay.
was.
There you go. I guess that was their
Yeah.
sort of like subtle way of.
That's definitely a little early, but
yep.
Yeah, but I think that was just meant to be like a nod to tolerance.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
There's a good death there.
I did
too.
think it was I did not understand it, but I didn't, yeah, I'm with you. I was like, okay, ooh, what's he gonna do? Is he or she gonna do? Like thought it was
Anybody else feel a little
gonna get
uncomfortable
himself.
watching these teens get busy? I was like, hey.
I was a
No,
yeah.
they're not real teens though, are they?
Well, the
No.
characters
didn't.
are, but they aren't. But
Kiana
Yeah, no.
Madeira, the one that played Dina, was 28 or is 28.
Oh, is she? Okay.
Because I only looked it up because I thought the gosh darn, I don't see it now. Olivia Scott Welch, who plays Samantha, I thought, man, she looks a lot younger than this other one. So I looked it up. She's like 23 though.
Oh, is she? Okay, because I was wondering. I was like, she looked very young. I was like, so I think, I think that's one of those things where they cast people even though they're much older.
Mhm.
But I will say, yeah, the little makeout session, I was like, oh, I feel like I've walked in to your kids making out in their bedroom.
I don't know, that didn't bother me.
But it did seem natural. It did seem natural. It didn't seem like they were trying to make it. It wasn't like some of those teen movies from the 80s where they just make it overly sexual. It felt like this natural thing between two people. So I thought that was kind of cool.
It might be a spoiler.
Oh,
Doesn't matter. We're in Spoilerville, so go ahead.
Well, so in the 80s, there was the thing about if you had sex or did drugs, you died. Well, in this one, it was just did drugs. At least out of the final 4 people.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
Well, death is meh. I mean,
But the whole but it's still, and I hate to seem like an old fogey, but the whole scheme of the way that drugs were in there just did not. None of it felt real, and their little plan on how to do something to save her was just plain dumb. It just made no sense.
But they're teenagers.
It was ridiculous.
Nobody. I don't
Teenagers
care.
are dumb.
Not that dumb.
Not that dumb. And on that note, let's wrap things up with our final thoughts. Our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. If you're still hanging out with us, we want to thank you for spending the time to enjoy our review. We hope you did, and we hope you enjoy others that we have on the site. If you want to support us, it's easy and free to do. You hit the subscribe button or you share with a friend, and that does wonders. And if you want to leave us a comment, we'd love to hear what you think. All right, guys, let's do it. Crystal, you are up first. Your final thoughts, your score 1 to 5, and your favorite thing.
Okay, so clearly I like this movie, and as we're discussing this, I'm like, is my opinion wrong?
You're questioning yourself.
I'm starting to question myself. I'm like, well, Christopher is a smarty pants over there. That does seem legit. I don't know. Okay, so I'm like all jacked up now. I'm not gonna lie. I am gonna give this. I'm gonna give it a 3.25.
Wow, nice.
Because I think it's nice and solid, and I think that for the right audience, I think it's great. It's just a lighthearted, fun little movie. Don't think too hard about it, because now I am thinking too hard about it.
Not made to be thought too hard upon.
Yeah, I don't think so. My favorite scene is, obviously the meat slicer.
Yeah.
Obviously. I was like, when that happened, I was like, oh, well, that was nice. So, yeah.
I was like, I was literally going, no, don't do that.
I know, because I don't even want to say,
Josh.
I don't
do that to Josh.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to give any sort of, but man, yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah. It was a good death.
Yes, it was. Jeff Moore, you're up next. Your final thoughts, your score, favorite scene. Yes.
This is one of those movies I'd want to give 2 scores to, but I'm not going to. So I'm going to give it a 3 with the idea that I would probably go 3.5 in terms of it had me engrossed. I was trying to figure out what was the mythology involved in this whole thing. And I thought the characters, for the most part, were likable most of the time.
Yeah.
But there's those couple things just threw me. That I've already mentioned the drug thing. Not that there's drugs in it. It's just the way it was in there was I just don't. Anyway, I don't see how those kids could have been alive, actually. If that's what they did, and then using it for what they were going to use it for was like, can we do the slowest possible version of this as possible to drag it? Anyway, that was dumb. But I also have a little bit of a problem with the Fear Street sort of, what's the word I want? What do they call that in marketing?
Yeah.
I think like the Fear Street badge or logo or it doesn't, I don't feel like this movie is not comparable to what those Fear Street books were back then. I don't think. I think it's far darker and far, but anyway, maybe I'm wrong. And I don't know how else you would do it. They rated it R. So anyway, that's me. But it's worth a watch, and I am kind of looking forward to the next one because it's actually an era I can identify with.
Yeah. All right. Did you give us
Wait, what year is it? What year is it?
74, I think, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, 74 or 6. Something like that.
But 74 would be better. This one I can identify with them all.
Why is that?
Why is 2 year?
It would be closer to something I actually went through. And the mall scenes I like because that's what I was doing during these years. That's what I worked in the mall too. So I was kind of like going, oh yeah, I remember that. And it always was kind of creepy when you locked the store and you walked out and you had to walk the whole length of the mall all by yourself and there's nobody there and your footstep anyway.
So it's actually 1978.
Oh, is it?
78.
Well, boogers.
Yep.
Okay. Well,
works for me.
Boogers.
All right, Christopher G. Moore. Sir,
Oh, the favorite scene.
Yeah, I thought he said the mall, right?
Oh no, my favorite scene. I'm sorry, you're right. I'm going to take when the erstwhile boyfriend of Sam's, the football player, when he gets it. I just was like, I did not expect that right then.
It was surprising.
I like cheered. It wasn't that it was particularly gruesome. It's just that, I hate that guy. I'm glad he's gone.
Yes. There's always got to be one character like that in the movie. All right, Christopher G. Moore, you're up next. Your final thoughts, your score, and favorite scene.
I enjoyed this okay. I just had issues with, their overuse of music. Even the music score was kind of didn't work so well with what was happening. At times it felt a little too big for everything that's happening, and then other times it felt a little goofy in places. But it's got some. I mean, I will say there's like one point where you have a certain assumption how things are playing out, and then it turns it on you. I thought that was kind of brilliant. I wasn't, as somebody who's usually like, oh, okay, I know where this is going. Okay, I didn't see that. That was a nice little magic act, I think, with turning the tables. Yep. So I do give them kudos for that. But again, there's moments where it's like, where is the parental figures in this world? I mean, they're doing all kinds of illegal stuff on the bus. It's like, is there a parental figure driving the bus? I was like, so many moments I was getting mad at this world. I was like, this is like freaking Mad Maxville. There's like no authority figures whatsoever. There's no people guarding the high school. There's no people guarding any building in this. You have like maybe 2 cops in the whole Shady. I mean, I guess that's why it's shady, because there's nobody there except for these crazy kids. I think I would leave Shady if I had to be around those annoying kids. At the same time, that our main core group, it was kind of nice. It felt very 80s and 90s where you have kids that you actually care about. So if deaths do occur, you're like, oh, unless it's somebody like, the jock, it's like, man, he should have died from get-go, because I hate that guy. But I think the majority of it, the main core group, I was like, if any of those get killed, you're like, oh, man. I was like, that was the same doc. I was like, oh, no, not that one. I think I was there was like one I was really worried about. But then at the same time, I think there's one character that they revolve around. I'm like, should have just let that character die and everybody would be happy. This would have been a whole happier ending if only they did that. But no, So I feel like some people died for no reason, and I think
Yeah.
they had a little bit of CGI-ness around some of the kill blood that was kind of noticeable. But I did like the nostalgia of the '90s and stuff. I think a lot of that stuff I was like all about. Somebody that I love, I fall for that stuff on Stranger Things every season. So yeah, it's not a perfect little thing, but I think it's still enjoyable, and I'm still kind of intrigued how it's going to play out. Hopefully, they'll make less stupid decisions based around things that make no sense, like the drug stuff. So I mean, I'll give it a 3. I'll be nice and give it a 3.
Okay,
So I won't give it too
Nice.
low because I still think there's some of the cinematography was shot really well. There's some
yeah, it
nice
was.
use of lighting in certain scenes. I mean, to where like you play into like the neonness of like the 80s and 90s, but even like the grocery store had like that sort of pink and blue light that Dave hates. So I did like a lot of the use of that. But yeah, other things not so much. As for favorite scene, since we're already in spoilers, I'm gonna say my favorite scene is when they all go into their respective bathrooms changing, and they all come out, and then Simon says, "Did y'all go to Pound Town? Me too."
I laughed.
I
too.
laughed
Like,
so
oh my
hard.
God.
Just his glee, and that he went to Pound Town by himself, and he was proud of that fact. I was like, okay, that's because I think at a normal like teen type movie, you'd be like, oh, everybody went to Pound Town without me. But no, he was feeling
He's
himself.
like,
I was like,
"Me."
you go, dude. You go, dude. Do your thing. Do your thing. And also, I was happy for Josh.
Yes, Josh.
Yep. Yeah.
So anyway, that's my favorite scene that makes me laugh every time I think about it. So
I like at the time the guy's wearing a wardrobe where the sweater's oversized, so it's kind of drooping off his shoulder.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know why I paid attention to that, but anyway, I enjoyed the help.
you went to Pound Town, didn't you?
Stay away
That
from the
V-neck.
pound. Stay away from the pound puppies. I enjoyed the hell out of it. What? I enjoyed this. I thought it was a fun slasher film that had, like I said, supernatural vibe underneath. It set up the trilogy pretty well. I liked the characters. I thought it was directed well. It had surprises in it. The kills were fun. The dialogue was fun. It was witty. It was clever at times. I like the homages. I know that some of you didn't as much, and they were painfully obvious. The whole Scream thing. I didn't really, except for the Pixie thing, I didn't really get the music. That was just because it was so on the nose, right? Because it was, it's like you name a band and their music plays. Okay. In the end, I really liked it. I'm going to give it a 3.75.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the next two. I think this is kind of like if you like the Babysitter movies, I think you're going to like this. I think it's in the same kind of vibe.
Ooh, the Babysitter's way funnier.
I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah.
Think so? I mean, it's
Nah,
This
it's not on that level.
isn't nearly as cheesy. Like this,
Or nearly
this
as
isn't-
funny.
You don't think it's?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yes.
Okay.
No, it's not nearly as like the Babysitter has some really fun, campy moments. Yeah.
Exactly, Jeff. It's not as good.
It's not as good. Come on, stop beating around the bush. I
But
agree.
as far
I
as-
agree. The Babysitter is a
yeah,
far better film.
But as far as like the look of the movie goes, I would agree with that. Kind of the same tones and feel of the look of it. Sure.
Although am I the only person that thought that one killer looked like Amy Winehouse? But I don't know. I wasn't sure if they were going for that or not.
She did look kind of.
She's even like singing and stuff. I don't know. For some reason, I was
Yes.
like, I feel kind of awkward.
If they had just done her hair like a little bit higher,
A little
it
more
totally would.
You all are going to get yourselves in trouble. Direct all email to Christopher at.
Just in case anybody's wondering, I didn't think that at all.
Oh no.
My favorite scene.
Oh, Doc, that's still Doc's turn.
I'm just going to go with the axe in the head. I like that.
Oh yeah, it was quick.
Yeah.
Yep.
Quickie but goody.
Yep. We'll just leave it right
Simple.
there. All right.
Simple Simon.
So there.
Ha! Ba-dum-bum.
That guy had to get somebody. the X.
Yeah, he did.
I know. Yeah, that would be like
He wasn't gonna get the lobster.
Chekhov's gun. You know, you got to use it sometime.
The little lobster crawling on the floor. It's like, really? Anyway, why do I know
yummy.
Yeah. All right. Fear Street, Part 1, 1994, the first of a trilogy. Obviously, with the Part 1 in front of it. We'll see you for the next 2 weeks. We're going to be covering Part 2, it's 1978, Dave, and Part 3 with 1666. I guess they won't have a lot of music in that one, Christopher.
Well, I guess we'll see.
Don't put it past them.
I'm sure we'll.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the kill count will probably be higher if it's a bunch of people at a camp, right? So we might get some more.
In 78, yeah, but I don't know about 1666 is what I was talking about.
Plus, we'll get to see more of the other crazy killer people, like the little kid and the little weird, like
some of those flashbacks from the
mask
the
thingy.
50s and the 30s were a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, could have used more of those. All right.
Well, then yeah, they might bring those back.
This feels.
For that one.
This feels like a. This feels like a teen version of American Horror Story a little bit for some reason.
You know, you're
It
not wrong.
does.
It does.
You know,
Yeah.
that makes me wonder why they ended up with the
That's a good
killers
call.
they did when we saw flashes on all these other ones. How come they didn't? Anyway.
Mm.
Well, I guess we'll probably see more of that.
They didn't like the 90s.
They do show, yeah, they do show that one in the water that we didn't see. So I don't know. I'm actually intrigued to see what happens in these other ones. So maybe it'll make up for some of the issues I had with this one.
It'll get better with each subsequent.
It'll age like wine.
Ah, nice. All right. Well, Christopher, as always, thank you for joining me, and Jeff, Crystal, thank you for hopping over to H&R and reviewing this film with us. A lot of
Yes.
fun.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, this was awesome.
Always fun.
And thanks Netflix for making this awesome film.
Oh, excellent. Yes. Thank you to them.
And I guess is Sadie Sink, she's also from? Is she also from that? Or is she from
Stranger Things?
Or is she from It? I get confused.
Stranger Things.
Stranger
She
Things, right?
she plays
Stranger
the sister, the
redhead.
brother,
Oh, that's
and
right.
Stranger
She's
Things.
Yeah,
The
'cause she's gonna-
skateboarder.
Yep. Because she's going to be in the next episode. So
Are they gonna have like a Stranger Things actor in every episode?
That would be.
they might. We'll have to look into. We'll find out. All right, guys. Let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Hi.
Nah.
Good night.